And we're back with AP as we see it, and we were discussing the women's basketball entries from the SEC and the men's teams as well. 14 overall on the men's, 10 on the women's side. We just want to make mention Walter Clayton Jr. did make the first team on the U.S. Basketball Writers Association, so the SEC was represented with 3 players on that U.S. Basketball Writers team. So, yeah, Walter Clayton Jr., excellent guard. If Florida's going to win, he's going to have to play well, but we just want to make mention of him. We want to mention the U.S. Basketball Writers Association All-Americans on the women's side. The first team was Anissa Morrow of LSU. The second team was Georgia Amore of Kentucky. Came over from Virginia Tech and helped the new coach who came over from Virginia Tech to be very successful this season. Michaela Blakes, the sensational freshman from Vanderbilt, made the second team, had a couple of 50-point games. Madison Booker from Texas, who was the conference player of the year in the SEC. She was on the second team, the U.S. Basketball Writers Association All-American team. The third team was Flo J. Johnson of LSU. So the SEC they were well represented on the U.S. Basketball Writers Association All-American Women's Team as well. We want to make mention of our sponsors, Greer's Markets, Lucy's Recipes. Check those online. She has a book that's out, and you can purchase that as well. We have the coloring contest for the children. That's monthly, so they have the March Madness as well for the brackets. That's something that you had to fill out before it started. You also have the groceries to go online. They can deliver to your office, your home, any venue you choose. And remember, it's family, friends, and March Madness at this point. March Madness with Greer's Groceries. And also look to them on the special occasions, the anniversaries, the birthdays, the holidays. You can get all the delicious food, the snacks at reasonable prices. And remember, Greer's got it. We'd also like to mention our host for the Maxwell Awards. I was over there in Atlanta last week, and we saw some SEC players receiving national awards, but the Cortland Grand Hotel on Cortlandt Street, right in the heart of Atlanta, spacious rooms, beautiful indoor pool that has the ambiance, makes you feel like you're on an island with all the trees and things and vegetation. Workout room, sensational buffet breakfast. Ben Giacomoro and his staff are so hospitable, and they take care of me for many years. And I always like to make mention of the Cortland Grand Hotel in Atlanta. So if you're looking for a place to stay right in the heart of Atlanta with exceptional hospitality and great accommodations, please check out the Cortland Grand Hotel of Atlanta. We want to try to move on to a few other items here. One of the things that I saw recently was Kirby Smart. He was discussing some of the players and their practice habits. And I'm thinking that there's no way that Georgia has very much of a problem that he would have to mention it during a press conference, that some of those players, those top-level 5-star, 4-star players, they have issues with coaching them hard. So I'm thinking, if Kirby Smart has to mention this during a press conference to get the attention of his team, and it's something that's kind of private, I wouldn't really want to mention that if I was a coach, that I'm having trouble with some of my players. They can't be coached hard. And that's something that they have to, I would say, review in their evaluation process. They have all the psychological testing and the advanced ways to evaluate people. And I would think by the time you get them on campus, that's one of the questions I always like to ask somebody during an interview many, many times. How do you like to be coached? And to listen to the different replies. Some players, you can really leave them alone because they're self-motivated. Other players, they want somebody to coach them hard. They'll tell you that in an interview. But for Kirby Smart, University of Georgia, top recruiting classes year after year, to have to mention this during a press conference that he's having to coach effort and players not accepting hard coaching, I just find that I'm flabbergasted, really, because if you ever visit Georgia and you're watching those coaches during the practice, you can see that they're going to be on you. I mean, they coach you hard. So for a player to arrive there on campus thinking that they're not going to be coached hard, I just find that incredulous. I don't understand how you can be a recruit at the University of Georgia and you arrive on campus and all of a sudden you have some coach just yelling at you and talking loud and trying to get you to do something in a drill, and you're surprised and then you don't accept it. I don't understand that when you have all this, like I said, advanced psychological testing and interviews you do when you're trying to recruit a player, and especially if there's a transfer player, you can ask different coaches, do they accept coaching? Do they love football? That's one of the questions the NFL asks you right away. Do you love the game of football? And not all players who are participants in football love the game. But that's one of the prime questions that an NFL team will ask you. And I would, if I was a college coach, and I'm sure many do, they probably ask them, do you love the game of football? Because you're out there, it's 100 degrees, you're wearing your uniform. That's before you do one drill, you're sweating, you're perspiring. And you have to love the game of football. I mean, when you're wearing that uniform, it's very difficult. It's strenuous. Every day you put on that uniform, it's difficult. So, but I just find it fascinating that Kirby Smart in a press conference, and I don't know the exact question, but he mentioned the fact that some of those players do not accept hard coaching. And of course, Kirby has a standard, and all coaches mention they have a standard. All coaches mention that. It's popular with some of the coaches, they were winning, so they're heard more than others, but all coaches have a standard on their team and a process, how they're trying to win ball games and implement with their program. But for Kirby Smart to make that statement about some of the players on his team do not accept hard coaching, if you're watching Georgia on television, you see Kirby Smart and his assistants, they have a style. It's not a secret. And so for these players to come to campus, accept a scholarship at the University of Georgia, and not be prepared for the style of coaching, I don't know. I'll never understand that. At this point in Kirby Smart's career, he's having to make that statement. I mean, he's a hard-nosed coach, defensive coach, and he's been a position coach and a coordinator, and he's trying to get the best from you, and he's going to stay on you. So this idea that Kirby Smart had to make those comments at a press conference about his team not accepting coaching some of his players, I mean, it's different if it's one or two players. Or if you wouldn't even mention it. But for him to come out and say that, it's got to be double figures. I once had an NFL coach tell me that on a team, you would accept, let's say, 4 to 5 players with serious issues. He said, I can't have more than that because they can't manage it. So, but Kirby Smart, and it must be something in his evaluation process that he's missing, because when you're having to coach effort, that's the worst. You want to coach technique and schemes and X's and O's and ways to be a better football player, but you do not want to coach effort at this level, at that level, because you're being paid. Number one, you're really a professional at this point. You're receiving NIL money, and that's something we're going to bring up. We're going to segue into the NIL. There's been a change. There's going to be a change in the negotiation process. Before, you're not supposed to be able to negotiate before you sign with the team, but we all know that's going on behind the scenes. But now it's going to be out in the open. You're going to be allowed for your representation to negotiate your name, image, and likeness numbers. So I think it's probably healthy. It was going on anyway. It was happening. So that's the legislation that's set forth, and it's going to be you're going to be able to negotiate your fees for the name, image, and likeness before you arrive on campus. And I think that's a good motion by the NCAA and the legislative body for that, for all the schools to say that you can negotiate your numbers with the name, image, and likeness in advance before you sign into school. But that's what I always envisioned when a player was getting ready to sign. There's 5 different telephones. His representative is in the room with him, and they're taking the last number. What is your last number on the 5 different telephone calls, let's say? And that's what I always thought was happening, because, like I said, it was done behind the scenes. Even though it was illegal, it was still being done behind the scenes before, but now it's going to be out in the open, and it's been legislated, and I think it's a good move to be able to negotiate with the school before you sign, because that's the first question that's asked. If you speak to coaches, assistants, they'll ask the player is looking at, what is my number, and they don't mean their jersey number. They want to know, what is their number in the world of the name, image, and likeness. What are you providing for me if I sign with your school? So that's important. But anyway, March Madness, men's and women, SEC at the zenith, at the height of their success right now. 14 teams from the SEC. One was already beaten right now, Texas, in the play-in game in Dayton, Ohio. But there's 13 teams still left, and I think the SEC is a viable chance to have one, if not two, and same on the women's side. But anyway, that's this week's edition of AP as we see it, and we thank you very much, and we'll see you next week.